I'm quickly going to take you here through a first simple application in C# in Visual Studio. Now this course is based on my book, The Little Book of C# Programming. As I said in the previous video, you don't need that book to follow along, but it would be useful. In this short video, I'm assuming that you've never used Visual Studio before. You must install it, as I explained in the last video, but I'm just going to show you quickly how you can create your first project. So you've got Visual Studio running, you select File, New Project. Now you've got this complicated Create a New Project dialog. In earlier versions of Visual Studio it's much simpler. Don't ask me why Microsoft made it more complicated, but you can find the dialog, the project type you need by selecting all languages C#, and then select Windows as your platform and desktop as the project type. And if you still can't find it, there's a search dialog up here. We want Windows Forms. And I want a Windows Forms app. This is the one I want. Okay, so I select that and I click Next. Now there are various other types of project available. I'm using Windows Forms because it's just the simplest to use. So you can put a project name in here. I'm going to call it Hello World, all one word. And I create the project by clicking the Create button. This creates a solution. A solution here is one or more projects. I'll explain that a bit more in another video. Don't worry about that for now. Just make sure that the Windows Forms tools are shown here, the components. Drag on a button. So that's the button here. You click it, drag it on, and what else should we have? We'll have a text box. So put on the text box there. Resize the window with the mouse. Resize this text box. And I'm just going to write the canonical Hello World program, just a program that displays Hello World. Now to do that, I'm just going to click this button and it takes me into the code editor. So you double click the button, don't just click it. And it creates this method, a function, a named block of code called button1click, and this handles the event. An event is something that happens, for example, when a mouse is clicked or when you use the keyboard. This is the mouse click event. And so the text box I put on just now has its own name, and if I start typing it shows me the names available. It's actually called text box 1. So I select that and I can double click it and it completes the name for me. Text box 1, I put a dot. Text box 1 has a property. I'll explain all this later on, but for now just think of it as a piece of data called text. And again, you can see that Visual Studio is helping me to fill this in by suggesting bits of text that I want to put in there. So I select that text box 1 text, and I just want to set it to hold the value Hello World. Hello World is a string. Strings are just bits of text, and they're delimited by double quotes. And so in double quotes, I'm going to put Hello World. And the C# syntax requires that I put a semicolon at the end. I can save it by clicking this button up here, and I'm ready to run it. Now, run, it's the start button here. It compiles my program, that is, it changes it from the text that I've written into something that can be executed by the computer. And here's my program. Click the button, and there you see it displays Hello World. That's your first example of a very simple program in Visual Studio. I'll have one more video going over a bit about the essential functions of Visual Studio, and then we'll get down to exploring C#, the C# programming language, in a bit more depth. To learn programming in depth, enroll in one of my courses or read one of my books. More information at bitwisebooks.com.